Hello, I'm Emma O'Brien. I'm a transformational life and business coach, and I help stuck people get unstuck. In this video, I'm going to share with you 2 ways you can value yourself more in your life and your business, and also how to go about detecting when you're not really living in alignment with your worth or your personal value. So this video was inspired by a quote I saw from supermodel Iman, and it's actually something her mother said to her when she was growing up. And the quote is, "Know your worth, otherwise somebody else will tell you what it is." And this is just such a poignant quote because I think it's so applicable to many of us. So the question I'm going to ask you before I jump into the content here is, where in your life are you not valuing yourself enough? And this might be in your personal life. Maybe there's a situation with your partner that makes you don't feel quite valued by them. Maybe you run your own business and you've got clients who are contacting you out of hours or not paying you on time. Maybe you've got colleagues at work who are not stepping up to the plate and doing their bit and leaving you with too much work to do. And every time you tolerate a situation that isn't okay for you, you are not really stepping into your worth, and you're not asking for what you want, and you aren't valuing yourself enough. So it is pretty simple to detect when you have a worth violation, let's call it. And you'll feel it on a somatic level when there is something going on that's out of alignment for you. So an example would be if we go back to the clients calling you after hours. Let's take that because it's quite an easy one, and it's probably a very relatable one for people. Does that feel good for you? And chances are, unless you are a doctor on call, it probably doesn't. It's probably quite triggering. It's probably very annoying. Maybe it makes you a bit angry. Maybe you are you want to tell the client what you think of them, but you're not going to. So if somebody else's behavior feels a bit icky or it triggers you in some shape or form, I will 99 times out of 10 say that you've probably got some sort of violation to your value system, and you've got something happening where people aren't treating you in line with your worth and in line with the way you deserve to or want to be treated. And it's pretty easy really to define your worth. So I said I'd be sharing two ways to do this, and here are the 2 ways to do it. So to define your worth, you need to get clear on what is and isn't okay for you, in terms of how other people behave towards you, and in terms of what goes on in your life and the kind of behavior and treatment you accept from other people. Because unfortunately, if somebody doesn't know that something isn't okay for you, they're going to keep doing the behavior. So for example, the clients that don't pay on time, if you don't invoice them and have a follow-up system and chase them for the money, and you do the work anyway, resentfully, even though you've not been paid, you're telling them that that's okay. So we have to take some responsibility in situations where we're not being treated properly. If you don't speak up, you're effectively telling the other person that's okay because you're not telling them it isn't okay. So the thing to do is to get clear on what is and isn't okay for you, and then set a boundary that tells people how you would like to be treated, and that you would like to be treated in accordance with your worth. And there's a couple more examples I can share with you. Let's say you are out dating and you have a date who is late for dinner repeatedly, but yet you sit there and you wait for them for 20 minutes or you wait for them for 30 minutes, and they get there and you might be a bit irritated, but you don't really say anything. You are signaling to them that it's okay for you to be late for me. I'll accept that. You don't have to be on time for me because my self-worth isn't that great. It's okay. Whereas if you said to them on the second time they were 20 minutes late, what's your excuse for being late? I'm not going to sit and wait for you for 20 minutes again. And the next time they do it, you get up and leave. They'll soon get the message that it's not okay. But it's far better to say to them, this isn't okay for me. I don't want to be treated like that. Very interestingly, here's another celebrity quote that I found very interesting. Watching the Meghan Markle documentary, the Harry and Meghan documentary, she talked about how when she was waiting for Harry, I think on their first or second date, he was about 30 minutes late. And he'd message her and he was like, I'm on my way, I'm stuck in traffic. And she sat there and she said, I was wondering if he was that guy. And I'm not available to be treated like that, and I wasn't going to put up with it if he was just going to be late and, because he's a prince. And I love that, and I just thought, here's a woman who's on a date with one of the most famous men in the world, and he's late, and she's thinking, I'm not going to sit and wait here much longer because I am not okay with being treated like that. And that is defining and knowing your worth and living it as well. When you set a boundary with people, you have to be prepared to reinforce it. So if we come back to those late paying clients, when you put a boundary down and you say to them, actually, I require payment up front before I deliver my services, they're going to have a little bit of a shock. But it's going to be much more in alignment for you to be paid either it depends what you do, but to be paid either a deposit or to be paid in full before you do the work, if that is what you want and those are your terms and conditions. And if you say to that client, if they don't pay, unfortunately, I won't be able to help you, it'll soon get them to pay. Or it'll get rid of that client entirely. And I think sometimes this is why we don't always put boundaries down in life or business, because we're worried that if we say to somebody, this isn't okay for me, they'll go, okay, well, your boundary isn't okay for me, bye. And that is something I have seen coaching clients do. It's something I have done in my own life in the past as well. We fear rejection and we fear what's going to happen if we ask for what we want. So often we don't ask for what we want. But I encourage you, in the spirit of living in an aligned and authentic life that works for you, because you're the one living your life, there needs to be boundaries down, and people need to be treating you in accordance with what is and isn't okay for you. So like I've said, this boundary setting, getting clear on your worth, and then setting a boundary around that will ruffle feathers to start off with, especially if you've been used to being a people pleaser. But sit tight and push on with it, because I have also found, going back to the example of, I've tolerated stuff in relationships I shouldn't have tolerated until I didn't want to tolerate it anymore. And I've tolerated stuff in my work situation with clients when I didn't have the proper systems in place, with getting paid and those sorts of things. What happens when you set boundaries is it will irritate people to start with, but fundamentally people respect you far more. And you will be treated far better when you put a boundary down, because people know they can't overstep that. So for me, when I do coaching, I'm also a photographer. So when I do coaching work, my coaching work is people pay, they sign a contract and they pay upfront in some shape or form, whether it's in full or on a payment plan. But I don't commence work until my contract has been signed and I've had some sort of payment in place, because it gives, it's not fair I'm not here to show up and work for free. And it gives my clients accountability as well. They've invested in something, so they're also going to show up and do the work. And when it comes to my photography work, I apply the same principle to it. If I'm doing, I quite often end up doing big commercial jobs. I take a 25% deposit up front before I will even start planning that job. And regardless of who it is, I get the payment because those are my terms. That's how I work. And as long as you are clear with your boundaries, people will respect them. And I invite you this week to see where in life situations with other people don't feel great for you. And you can start to identify where it might be of value for you to put a boundary down so people can treat you in accordance with that. I think the other thing to add here is people are not mind readers. And if you don't explicitly tell somebody how you wish to be treated, they don't know. And this is something I have encountered in my own relationships. I've seen it with my coaching clients, is we have this expectation of they should know that I need to be paid on time. But if they haven't been told and they haven't seen your terms and conditions, and you've worked for them 5 times before and you've allowed them to pay 3 months later, how will they know? So it's all about communication, which is such a big part of life and big part of making life successful. And it's about understanding your worth and setting a boundary that defines it, communicating it effectively and sticking to it. So this week, I invite you to have a look and see where you could tighten up some of your boundaries and live your worth a little bit more authentically. So if you've listened to this and you're like, yeah, that's really great, but I've got 200 boundary violations going on and I don't know where to start. Drop me a line. This is one of my zones of coaching genius, is helping people make changes in their life and supporting them along the way. So if you would like some coaching support, please do get in touch with me and I'll happily chat to you about how it might look like for us to work together as you put some boundaries down and start to really live in accordance with your worth. So thank you very much for watching. Please do subscribe to the channel or give my page a follow to be notified when there are new videos up. I do share content every week and I look forward to connecting with you again soon.